They are looking for 2 additional suspects. They are searching for them right now, canvassing the area. I can tell you they have found a gun. Burrillville police have brought in a mobile command center. They're also working with Rhode Island State Police. And we've really seen a lot of activity to the left of this house. We could see more before they put up that blue tarp. Just take a short walk with me. It's not going to take very long until we get to 10 feet. In fact, this is 10 feet. It's a short distance, but it probably feels longer if you're being dragged by a car. We want to get your side of the story. Live here on Hemlock Road. As you can see, South Kingstown police are still blocking off the road. I'm stepping out of the way just so you can get a better look. I'm at the corner of Hunt and Liberty Streets here in Central Falls. Just take a look. We're live here in Burrillville. I can tell you that the police chief just let us know, yes, they have found the body of a man. There's still lots of snow on the ground, and that is because those streets, well, those are the second priority for the different crews that have been out on the roads all day yesterday and for part of this morning. You might think that the snow is the biggest problem, but it's not, because underneath all of this snow, well, the ground is frozen. The 87-year-old was born here in South Dakota. Then she moved to Nebraska. It took decades, but she finally made it to 49 states on her own. But she needed help to get to the 50th right here in Rhode Island. Well, as you can see from this damaged building, that Dr. Joseph Rick Callister never made it to his planned destination, a small airport nearly 20 miles away. These are some of Dr. Joseph Rick Callister's final words.
And this is 5626 Delta, prepared emergency at this time.
He was flying his wife Betty and daughter Nicole. Despite the danger, you can hear Dr. Callister is calm. You'd expect nothing less of the head of a Tennessee emergency room.
I believe we have major problems. Sir, we're not doing jack. We had a real bad vibration. We're losing engines.
We now know Dr. Callister eventually crashed into this Plainville home, about 20 miles from their planned destination at Norwood Memorial Airport. Flight Level Aviation, the FBO here in Norwood, tells NBC10 the pilot called ahead saying he wanted to leave his plane here for a couple of days. He was originally flying out of Tennessee. A family friend tells NBC10 the Callisters were heading to Boston, flying 18-year-old Nicole to orientation at Northeastern University. You see a loving family in the Callister women's Facebook pictures. Dr. Callister was the emergency room director at Star Regional Medical Center's Athens campus. Betty Callister was also in healthcare, according to her Facebook page, a surgery scheduler and yoga instructor. And I also learned Dr. Callister was borrowing this plane. It actually belongs to another doctor, also from Tennessee. Reporting live in Plainville, Sierra Putman, NBC 10 News. Well, Dan, I actually asked the health department those very questions, and they say they're not naming those 128 facilities because they're, quote, basically sworn to secrecy. The beef recall is here, but it's not stopping this Rhode Islander from getting a burger.
I always have a burger here. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous?
This food truck gets its beef from California. The recalled ground beef comes from Wolverine Packing Company out of Michigan. 128 Rhode Island facilities, including a school, nursing homes, and restaurants, got the contaminated meat. But the health department isn't naming names.
Very scary that they aren't telling people where the beef was sent to. People need to know.
A lot of our viewers wanted to know why the health department isn't releasing the names of these 128 facilities. Well, I asked them the tough questions, and they say, well, they just can't for legal reasons.
Here, the distributor shared the information with us, but specifically told us very clearly that this was proprietary, confidential information not to be shared.
If you release the names of these different places, then in the future, these distributing companies aren't going to tell the health department that there's an E. coli scare?
They won't tell us their customers.
So the department discreetly contacted all 128 locations and made sure they sent the beef back to Michigan. With Memorial Day on the way, now more than ever, the department wants everyone to thoroughly cook their burgers. Chef Peter Kelly at Johnson & Wales says it only takes a few minutes to cook and check the burger is at least 160 degrees Fahrenheit. It's an extra step, but a sure way to get a healthy, juicy burger. I also asked why Rhode Island found out a day late about this recall and that local facilities were involved. Well, the health department says they called the company on Monday, but they didn't hear back from them until Tuesday. Sierra Putman, NBC 10 News.
And we know a lot.
Most of us don't think about who's locked up in prison. Most figure they're thieves, crooks, monsters, deserving of their fate. It hardly crosses our minds they could be fathers or mothers.
We have children visiting every day.
But A.T. Wall, the director of the Rhode Island Department of Corrections, says many of his inmates have kids.
About 54% of our inmates report that they are parents.
There are more than 3,000 inmates at the ACI. About 1,620 are parents. Inmate parents average about 2 kids apiece. Justin Brown has 3. How have you seen it affect your kids, you being away?
Well, my oldest, I see it affected to the point where they know now where I'm at. My youngest child, she was born while I was incarcerated.
In Rhode Island, there are about 3,000 kids with a locked-up parent. Nationwide, that number climbs to about 2.7 million, according to the Pew Research Center. Sometimes Wall fears prison becomes a family legacy.
We have 3 generations of incarcerated inmates in some cases. Grandparent, parent, child.
It's one of the reasons he not only focuses on his inmates, but also their offspring. In fact, if you look at the limited research concerning the topic, you'll notice Rhode Island is at the forefront of tackling the issue. The Annie Case Foundation encourages other prison systems to copy the Ocean State's move toward collecting data on incarcerated parents. Wall's focus is twofold: keep the family intact and educate, a plan he hopes will reduce the entry and recidivism rates.
Kids need contact with their parent. They need contact with the person that they've grown to know and grown to love, no matter what the parent did.
Talisa Richardson is the parenting coordinator for the Department of Corrections. She's in charge of several programs for locked-up parents and their kids. The most successful might be the Saturday Visitation Program for inmates in medium and minimum security facilities.
And it's a child-centered play area, playtime. The kids know it's all about them.
To make the atmosphere more kid-friendly, well, the inmates painted murals on the walls like these. And then the facility also provides toys like footballs, books, and other types of games. So when the kids get their one-on-one times with their parents, well, they can just be kids.
Whatever she wants to do, really, but mostly we sit and color, draw, read books together. But she tried to read to me now because she said I can't read too good.
Like any father, you can hear the pride in his voice, see it in his eyes. But Brown knows he's locked up because he did things his kids would not be proud of.
Her house. She said, when you gonna come to my house? And I tell her I'm gonna come there soon. And hopefully I never have to she have to come to my house again.
Some might see this as a luxury Brown and other inmates don't deserve. But children who never got this chance don't see it that way.
That's great. I didn't have that back then. When I went to prison to go see my dad, we sat at a table, him and my mother, and I really didn't have a lot of time to talk to him.
The fact is that children suffer when their parents are incarcerated. We really want to break that cycle. The best way that we can avoid future generations of incarceration is by assisting the incarcerated parents in dealing with the issues that brought them here.
Which means they can also be productive fathers and mothers once they're free.
Through the program, I feel as though like I get a second opportunity to be a parent.
Sierra Putman, NBC 10 News. The basketball court is Lawrence Sabir's home away from home.
Actually, my mom taught me how to shoot. She was an all-state basketball player back in her day.
Now the LaSalle Academy sophomore is on the same track. He's already a member of the varsity team.
It's just a great experience.
A great experience Lawrence has because of a not-so-happy reality. A group that helps children of incarcerated parents helped him get into LaSalle. Lawrence's dad has been in and out of prison since he was very young.
He was in jail at least 5 times.
At first, Lawrence was too young to know what was going on.
As I was younger, I got in trouble a lot. No father to be there to put me in my place. In the middle of the nights when I was younger, I would cry. Where's my father at?
this is not uncommon. New studies show children with incarcerated parents are stressed and face other obstacles. You might have heard some things about these kids. An old study said that they were 6 times more likely to wind up behind bars themselves. Well, RISE and other groups say that study was just wrong, but they do know that these kids are more likely to be poor, children of color, possibly have behavioral issues, and face shame and stigma for something they didn't do. It was RISE that helped Lawrence earn a scholarship to this private school.
RISE helped me all the way. They're just great people.
RISE stands for Rhode Islanders Sponsoring Education. It was founded 17 years ago by 2 doctors affiliated with Brown University. They were working with women in prison and had a dream to use education to clog Rhode Island's prison pipelines.
RISE is more relevant today than ever. What we've been able to prove out, actually, with looking at our data over the last 17 years, is that we are making a difference.
Johnny Sky is the executive director of RISE. The group provides mentors and education programs for children and families. One of their biggest goals is to make sure kids like Lawrence have the chance to make better choices than their parents.
No child decides what family they're born into, what skin they're born into, or where in the world they're born into, obviously. They come in and have to manage the circumstances that they were dealt. Education is, in fact, the most protective factor that can change the course of a young person's life.
She says they help about 130 kids a year, a small number when you consider there are about 3,000 children with parents behind bars in Rhode Island. Nationwide, there is an estimated 2.7 million children with a parent serving time.
Currently, we have a waiting list of 100 young people who are looking for mentors, and we're struggling to meet that need. And actually, RISE was the first organization in the U.S. to solely focus on this particular population.
Turns out the State Department of Corrections and RISE are helping to lead the way in this field, and there are signs they're making a difference. Just take it from Lawrence's oldest friend, Tunde Akinjobi. This is a picture of the two when they were babies. A year or 2 later, and Tunde's father was sent to prison.
He's been in there since I was 2.
Unlike Lawrence, there was no in and out for Tunde's dad. He's in for life.
I've talked to my dad on the phone and things like that, so he's still a part of my life.
Last year, it looked like Tunde might be following in his father's footsteps. He got in trouble and kicked out of LaSalle Academy. Prison bars didn't stop Dad from setting his son straight.
He was just furious with me.
It looked like all the work RISE did would go down the drain. Sounds like RISE didn't give up on you.
No, not at all.
They gave him a second chance, a gift many kids in his situation never get.
That situation taught me that anybody can give up on me.
I think every child deserves more than a second chance. What we were able to do for Tunde is to say, you made a mistake. It doesn't mean you're a bad human, and we're not going to throw you away.
It's through those second chances and education that RISE believes it can make sure Tunde and Lawrence have a better life, one both young men plan to take full advantage of.
Yeah, I feel like since somebody gave something to me, I want to give back. That gets in my head a lot.
So maybe one day, they'll be the ones to extend a hand and help other kids rise up. Sierra Putman, NBC 10 News.